And I will say that that is a muscle I've developed. It's kind of
Mm.
like, you didn't always drink wine, but you've clearly developed a palate for it.
Okay, don't come too hard at me, damn.
Hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode. We made it through episode 1. This is episode 2 of Better Merch, Better Marketing. I am one of your hosts, Kirby Hasseman. Joining me is Jade Kreider. Jade, how are you?
I am so good. How are you?
I am doing super, super well. It is, man, it's been cold. I made I've made a sort of resolution that I wouldn't complain about the cold, and I've done pretty darn well here recently. I guess, I mean, my own opinion, but I will say that the last couple days, this morning it was -10. Cops are coming by. -10 this morning when I woke up, and then we went to an event, and in the building there wasn't a heater, it wasn't working, and I'm super close to complaining about it, if I'm being honest. So other than that, I'm doing great. So you doing well?
Yeah, it's actually, we're on the mend of the negative temperatures here in Colorado. So we
Yeah.
got up to, I think, 32 today, which is still so cold, but it was
Yeah.
-12 48 hours ago. So it's a
Yeah.
40-degree increase.
It's
So
balmy.
I am excited.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, for those of you who are just jumping in for the first time, this is Better Merch, Better Marketing. It is a podcast that is designed to help you elevate your merch and your marketing. And Jade and I are here to hopefully provide you some value, but also have some fun as well. Better Merch, Better Marketing brought to you by Hasseman Marketing. You can find more about us at hassemanmarketing.com. Okay, so we want to jump in today, and really wanted to dive into a topic that was fairly timely. So if you have been living in the world the last week or so, the big talk, and it was the talk last week when you and I were in Vegas. There was articles about it. There was articles after it. The idea that TikTok was going to go away, and then what was it? Saturday, Sunday, something like that. That we woke up and the TikTok was not working,
Mhm.
and so I I thought this was a reasonable topic for you and I to jump into, and I thought you and I tend to come at this from different perspectives.
Mhm.
This is one of the points of this podcast is that I'm a little older than you, and so we use tools differently. And so I wanted your take. I mean, obviously, how did you feel when? Okay, let me ask it this way. Number one,
Okay.
did you think it was going to actually happen?
Uh-huh.
B, when it did actually happen, how do you feel? And then
Mhm.
C, how do you feel now about it? It came back.
So I didn't think it was gonna happen because they've been threatening it for what, a year and a half now. They kept saying they were gonna take it
Right?
away, and they still hadn't done it. And so I was like, oh, it won't happen. And ironically, because Central Time Zone, I was still on it, sitting on the couch with John, and suddenly the comments turned off, and then
Hmm.
suddenly the profile pictures were gone, and then suddenly the sound stopped working, and I'm literally sitting next to my husband is John, and I'm like, oh my god, like I was so dramatic about it. Let's make that so clear. As someone who is my generation, but also I do a lot of work on TikTok too. We have a hospital marketing account that I post a ton on. If you're not following it, shameless plug, follow it right now.
Love it.
But so I was really bummed that it happened. And then when it came back, it's just different. I've said it a couple times. It's not the same.
Mhm.
I've seen a couple people saying that if you block certain accounts, then your algorithm is going back to normal.
Hmm.
They're saying that if
Interesting.
you block Facebook, because everybody thinks Meta took over, so they're
Hmm.
saying if you block Facebook and Instagram, your algorithm is coming back. And I
Hmm.
did it. My algorithm's back. I don't know if it's because I blocked him or not, but my algorithm is back. So
Interesting. Okay, I did never heard that.
the downside for me still is that CapCut, which is the TikTok editing app, is down.
Hmm.
All of my videos are on there. And so any of the stuff I do behind the scenes that are kind of edited off of TikTok, I use CapCut for personally, and now it's all down. And so I really hope that comes back. But if I'm hoping the algorithm changes a smidge bit back to where it was, because I have a feeling people are going to get off if not.
Yeah. Well, and I think that was one of the things. So ASI did an article and they called me about it. And I said, part of it's the consumption, part of it's the promotion.
Hmm.
But the third part's the creation. And I think that's the part that not everybody understands that isn't a
Hmm.
creator on TikTok is the
Yeah.
tools and the sounds and all the things that you utilize and many people
Hmm.
utilize to create some of the viral content that's on there. That was sort of the big, I don't know, the big takeaway for me is like, if that goes away, and then of course you called me and was like, CapCut's gone.
I was so upset. I was so upset. I have 5 videos on there that I might have to go back and just redo because I have to re-edit them. So it's a big bummer for me. But yeah,
Yeah.
seeing like just the simple things of like sometimes my videos talking about products don't do quite as well on TikTok, but then my trending sounds do really well. And so it brings people to our page, but then they can still kind of see the other stuff, but they don't have to watch the whole thing. I get it. You don't always want to be sold. It's TikTok, it's supposed to be mindless. But doing the funny videos talking about just like I don't want to make cold calls. So then I
Right.
use, the office sound. Seeing those kind of go away because it's just not the same on Instagram. So seeing those go away will be a little bit of a bummer because those are my joy.
Yeah. So I guess the follow-up question is like moving forward, I kind of think I'm with you in the sense that I don't think TikTok's going to go away. I think it's going to end up
Mm-mm.
figuring itself out. But that being said, if it were to go away again, do you think that like Meta, Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
uh, like, do you think they would take over in that spot?
I think there will be another app.
Mm.
In my opinion, just from what I've seen on TikTok, because of course that's all of my algorithm right now, ironically, which is why I'm tired of my algorithm. It's just people talking about how it's all messed up and that people just don't like Meta as much as they love TikTok.
Right.
I mean, it's literally the reason the app is getting in trouble is because they're literally taking your information and giving you videos that you want to see. Like you might like TikTok knows you better than you know you sometimes. You don't even know
Mm.
you want to see the video. Meta obviously isn't doing that, hence why it's not being banned. But so it's just not the same that level of your for you page is so targeted. On
Yeah.
Instagram I get such random videos that I'm like, what why why am I seeing this? But then you get on TikTok and you're like, yep, I built this brick for brick. Like, I
I
built
love
this for you, page.
That's pretty good. And I think that, sometimes we view it, and if you're not let's say you're not a TikTok user and you say, well, I'm not on there and it's just people watching whatever videos. And there's certainly some truth to that. But man, there's a lot of content creators that are pushing out, they're
Good.
selling a lot of product, they're building brand.
Mm-hmm.
Marketers are using TikTok really well. And
Yeah.
so I think that ignoring it is not a great idea. Now, the one thing I would
Mm-mm.
say is, you know, when they were asking me questions, they're like, "Are you freaking out about it?" And I'm like, "No, because we have purposefully created content across platforms so that if
Yeah.
one
Which
goes
is
away,
huge.
it's okay." So that would be the
Mm-hmm.
one piece of advice I would give creators
For
is to
sure.
not just be singly focused on one platform because this could happen and your whole audience goes away.
Yeah, I
Hey,
apologize.
Maverick.
Mavi's always gonna jump into the video for us.
Yeah.
The big thing too is that like when TikTok, I know it was 12 hours, but again, I was still on my phone and I immediately panicked about something as simple as the recipes that I had saved. And so I immediately was trying to find those creators on other platforms, and the ones that had those videos already uploaded to their Instagram
Yeah.
immediately got a follow on Instagram. The ones that didn't, I was like, okay, screw it, I lost that recipe. It is what it is. Oh, I lost that life hack. It is what it is. How
Yeah.
to do those curtains. So things like that, the cross platform, like you're saying, can make a big difference because then people will just follow you to whatever platform is next, whether it's a new one or whether it goes meta.
Well, and I think, again, if we're trying to provide value and lessons, like Cody Sanchez is an entrepreneurial content creator, someone I follow a lot. She's really smart. She talks about buying boring businesses, and I found her on Instagram.
Mm.
Right, I found her seeing stuff there. Now, then all of a sudden, I went and found her and dug deeper on YouTube. And I think there's a
Mm.
strategy there to say, okay, once you find people with shorts, make sure they can find you on other platforms where they can dig deeper into your content. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think there's lessons here when you talk about the idea of these platforms growing, going away. I think it's important to try new ones as they pop up,
Mm-hmm.
because you develop skills that you can take with you, right?
For
You know what I
sure.
mean? Alex Hermosi talks about you are the product. Like
Mm.
with all of these things, you're developing skills you can use on other things. So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how TikTok progresses. Um, but as of now, it was very timely, and so I
It
appreciate your
was. It
perspective on
felt
it.
right. Hopefully book talk never goes away, so I can continue to get my book recommendations.
Cool. All right. Do you have the next topic?
I have the next one. So Kirby and I just got back from Vegas. We're recording this one after Vegas. I'm wearing my merch maker shirt from our friends at Common Skew, who I love so much. But we just got back from Vegas, and so today we are going to talk about some of the lessons that we learned at Vegas. There's a lot going on in Vegas, so it's a fun thing to really kind of break down what you brought home with you.
Yeah, and I would say, just for those who are listening, and if you've never, we go here every year. It's called PPAI Expo. It's the largest event in our industry. So it's the trade show about trade shows. So it's really big. It's one of the bigger events in Expo, and so, or in Vegas. And so I think that's the foundation of where this discussion kind of starts. So do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
I'm happy to. I'll go first.
Okay.
My first lesson that I learned, and I think we've kind of talked about this, but I haven't actually said it out loud. More people are watching and cheering for you than you even realize. The amount of people that came up to me at Vegas and talked about my TikTok videos and how they were awesome and how I should do more of them and how they were inspiring them. And I didn't think anybody was watching. So that was a really big one for me. And I mean that in like the best wholehearted way. If people were like, oh, it's awesome, keep going. Hey, you're awesome, keep going. That was a really cool one. And I think it kind of applies in a lot of different aspects of life, but in particular with the content and things like that, for me, it really hit home.
I love that. And I think it leads nicely into my first one, which is
Perfect.
Collaborative competition is inspiration. So my guess is many of the people who are coming up to you, now there were suppliers, the people who sell to us, but there were also people who are our competitors, right, in the industry. And what I've found in going to the event for years is that some of those competitors become my biggest inspiration, because we're able to tackle, hey, how are you handling this specific situation? And my guess is that's the case in every industry, right? When you can find peers that you can trust, it can really help you elevate your game.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay.
My next one is reach out and ask. What's the worst thing they say? I learned this in a lot of different ways. One of the sessions that I went to was a very, really great education session that I loved so much. And she was challenging me to reach out to new clients. She's like, what's the worst thing they can say? But also then I kind of pushed myself and found myself, I walked up to somebody I didn't know and just said, hey, can you help me with this? And it was the most insightful information I possibly got at Vegas. So it was a very good, just like, reach out and ask. In so many aspects, but just like, what's the worst thing that happens? Somebody says no. Who cares?
That's
and then you
really
move on.
good.
So I like that one.
And so, and is shout out, that was Jenna, right? Jenna Quanta.
Yeah, JQ.
Yeah, right. She did a great job on that. So my next one is relationships are really the core to most business success. I think so many times in every industry, we're like, well, our product is better, or our product is cheaper, or these bullet points and these features. And that's what we talk about. I think selling, and I think this builds to that, is building relationships. When you build relationships, it's much easier to sell something. It's also easier to get really quality feedback, so that if they're not buying, you feel okay asking why, and you can get information so that you can make your product or your service better. I think, again, having a quality product is wonderful, and it's the most important. It's a really important thing. But man, if you are a relationship builder, you can succeed in any industry.
I really like that one. That's a really good one.
Okay. Got another one, or is that it?
My last one was a little bit repetitive of my goals for the year, so I won't even bother you.
All right, let me throw this last one. I think you'll agree with it. As you wear a merch maker t-shirt, we are in the industry of branded merch. And so, and obviously most of the people who are listening to this know this. But one of the things that I find interesting is, I'm pardon the pun here, Jade, but I'm jaded by it, right? Like, you can't give me a cheap coffee mug. You can't give me a cheap t-shirt. Like, I won't take it. I will literally, like, if you give it to me, I'm gonna throw it away, because I'm overwhelmed by it. But man, everybody still loves quality, useful, branded merch. Like, the people who are the most jaded in our industry are not fighting over, but we're excited to have really cool merch, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're going to do merch in this upcoming year, don't do crap. Like, take the time to think about what you're putting your logo and your brand on. If you do something that's really high quality and really useful, you will be glad you invested in that way.
Well, and that one's really interesting too, because it's one of the things I was in a panel while we were in Vegas. So I was speaking on stage with a couple other people, and we talked about the fact that it's a big thing for our generation that even if it can't be, even if it's not an eco friendly product or like a recycled product, it's important that it's a useful product. Don't give me that crappy thing that I don't care about.
Yeah.
Give me the really cool t-shirt that's actually really soft and I didn't expect it to be. Give me, you know what I mean? Give me the multi-use tool that can be reused. It was something we talked about a lot. So I think that's
and I've
a great
heard, so
point.
my buddy Bill Petrie, who he and I did a podcast for a million years, he had a great point one time. He's like, the most sustainable product is the one you keep and use, right? Because it doesn't get thrown away, so it's sustainable, right? So I was like, you know, we're always thinking about the material and how it's recycled, and but all good. But if you give me something quality, I will keep it and it will not get thrown away. And so
it
I
will
like that
live
a lot.
here forever.
Dig it. Okay.
I love that. Me, sorry.
Yes. Right.
We had a request for the next one. So I'm going to kind of read what was requested of us just so that we can make sure that we're talking about the right thing. And frankly, Kirby might talk about it a little bit more than I do just because he's a little bit more of a pro. So we are talking about one way. I'm so sorry. We want to hear on how to gain and retain clients.
Yeah, so Janie sent us a question, and I just want to encourage you, if you have questions that you'd like to hear us answer, first of all, Janie, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And if you have any, man, please send them our way because this is really fun for us. So how do we gain and retain customers? So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to give this really quick answer because otherwise, I mean, I have an hour-long talk.
He'll never stop talking.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But I wrote a book about it. So here's what I want to do is if you want to dive deeper, just go to hitthetargetbook.com. You can get the audiobook, the ebook, and a video course about this. And I think it will provide some more context to this. So really quickly, Target is an acronym. So if you want to gain and retain clients, I'm going to go through this really quickly. So T stands for target. It means identify that perfect target. One of the big mistakes I see people making, and Jade, I think you'll appreciate this, is that like if everybody's your customer, no one's your customer. It's like it is really hard to market to everybody, to promote to everybody, to call, which I know you love, everybody, right? So understanding exactly who that is, it makes you change the way you speak, the way you write your copy, the way you do your marketing, the trade shows you go to. If you want to attract and retain customers, finding out as opposed to, you know, them being responsible for finding you, flip the script and making sure you're finding them. A stands for attract. That's about building your list, right? And so building the people who follow you on social like TikTok, but then also, and it goes nicely in this thing is, if those platforms go away, make sure you're building your own list, your email list, your text list, so that you can communicate with them. So if TikTok goes away, but you have captured emails, you can say, hey, follow me on Instagram now or whatever. And so build that list. R, this is what Jade's really good at, is reach, building your reach, creating social media and content to provide value to that customer. And the reason that T is really important is all of a sudden you know what kind of content to create. Right? Because you know who it's for, right? You answer their questions, you provide them value, you make them laugh, whatever it is. And then once you've done those things, then it's G, which is sell. Go get it, right? And I think that those are, if you do those kind of 4 steps in a row, that's about getting new customers. E stands for enthusiasm. Build enthusiastic brand ambassadors. This is when you build your brand. This is when you retain customers, and they create repeat customers and referrals, which is really powerful. And so that's about just showing appreciation for the people who do business with you, and consistently saying thank you and doing what you say and saying what you mean and all that sort of thing. And then the final T is for track. It's track your activities so you know what you're doing. Again, I know I went through those really quickly, but if you go to hitthetargetbook.com, you can get all of these for free. There's no cost or obligation. So thoughts on that, Jade, as you are looking to attract and retain new customers of your own? What's your take?
I'm definitely not the pro to give any advice considering I am still figuring it out. But the thing that I have learned this week alone, considering it's my first week doing cold calls, is number 1, again, what's the worst they say? Right. No. and it's okay. But also just like do it. Like I've watched about 10 different videos on, cold calls and tips and tricks and what to say and what not to say. And everybody says that the first couple times that you reach out to somebody, you're going to be uncomfortable and you're going to be feeling a little type of way. And then you do it and then you're just like, okay, let's do this thing. And you get in kind of in a roll. So challenge yourself, push yourself out of your comfort zone.
I love that. And I will tell you, and I'm not sure you'll like hearing this or you won't, but I think even sales pros will tell you the first call of each day is hard like that, because you got to get yourself into a headspace where that's what you're doing. And so the first call or two, even when you've been doing it a long time, it's like, oh, it's like a workout. Like people who tell you where they're like, oh, I hate running. And you're like, well, how far do you usually run? Oh, I'll run a half mile or a mile. I'm like, well, that's the worst part. Like, I'm not saying that on mile 3, you're like, oh my God, euphoria. But the worst part is the first part, right? So it gets better as you go.
Love it. Okay, I'm skipping to the next thing because this actually rolls really, really well into my next one. So our next segment is going to be, was Dad right or was Dad wrong?
This is like my favorite.
He has no idea what I'm going to say, which makes this extra fun for me. Today, Kirby is so wrong. And it rolls so well because Kirby will tell you that the first mile is the worst mile. And I think all the miles suck. Running sucks. And I'm sticking with that till the day that I die. I did a 5K and guess what? Mile 3 still sucked. So today, Kirby's wrong. Running sucks.
Okay, so was that seriously what you were going to talk about today?
Oh, I feel pretty strongly about this. So the fact that you just went into the fact that mile 1 is the worst, wrong.
That's hilarious. I couldn't have set you up better if I tried.
I know, it worked out so well. I told Mom ahead of time and she thought that was hilarious. And she's like, no kidding. Mom and I don't run is really the summary if you're listening. He's a runner. We are not.
All right. Well,
it's very goofy today, but last week was serious and I said you were right. So I can't do that ever again.
Yeah. It's gonna be difficult for you. So it is interesting because I've not always been a runner, and I will say that is a muscle I've developed. It's kind of like, you didn't always drink wine, but you've clearly developed a palate for it.
Okay, don't come too hard at me, Dale. I do have a great palate for wine, and now I drink dry red wine. Only. No, I'm just kidding. I had white wine last week.
Well, congratulations on that. No, that was funny. I like that one. That was good.
I thought you'd laugh.
Yeah, that was a good one. Okay. All right. Final one. We always try to do a shout out. And so the shout out this time is to a couple local restaurants here in Coshocton. Both Main Street Station and Sorrel's on the Square were featured on America's Best Restaurants. And the actual video took place like a week or so ago. Both local restaurants have a great deal of support. They're both really great, owned by wonderful people. Both Gary and Walter are awesome. And it was really cool to see those local restaurants being celebrated. And I cannot wait to see the edited version of what it shows up. Because again, part of the deal is they kind of opened up so they could have clients there and they, obviously served food and did all that. And it was, I don't know, whenever you see local businesses and especially local restaurants, these aren't franchises, they're owned by local people that we know, featured in such a way like this, man, I just think that's super cool.
Yeah. And that it's going well when I'm hearing about it nonstop all the way here in Colorado. It means you're doing something right? Yeah. But I also love both those restaurants, so I'm a little bit biased.
Yeah, absolutely. So congratulations to Sorrel's and Main Street Station. I can't wait to see the finished product on that. And we'll give another shout out when it comes out so you can check it out. And if you have any, we mentioned earlier, if you have any questions or any topics you want us to cover, please let us know. But also if you have any shout outs, people who are doing good work, people are giving back, people are making a difference in your community, man, I'd love to hear about it. And we'd love to give them a shout out here on the program. So I think that's going to wrap up today's episode. Once again, Better Merch, Better Marketing is brought to you by Hasseman Marketing. If you want to learn more on how you can do better merch and better marketing, please look us up, HassemanMarketing.com. So on behalf of Jade, who loves wine and hates running, Kirby Hasseman, signing out.
And Maverick.